Hey guys, tonight we slip past the torchlit gates of Edo-era Nagoya Castle and straight into a scene that feels half documentary, half midnight fairytale. The stone corridors echo under your sandals, but before you can whisper, "Is anyone home?" a line of four-legged officials marches out. Their silk-trimmed collars shimmer like miniature court robes, whiskers twitching in what you swear is bureaucratic determination. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now, slide into the comments and tell me your city and what time it is on your clock. I'm genuinely curious how many dawn owls and midnight gardeners are listening. Ready? Dim the lantern, fluff the pillow, and let's walk among Nagoya's most unexpected salarymen. The curtain rises on Nagoya's feline officials. You stop at the threshold of the inner keep, breath frosting in the late winter air, and that's when you notice the first badge of office, a tiny lacquer tag dangling from the calico's neck, engraved with the character E. Duty. The castle steward kneels beside you, lowering his voice as though revealing imperial secrets. "Meet the yaku-neko," he says. "They clock in at dusk." You lean closer, and the cat blinks back, equal parts bored and regal. Somewhere behind those pupils lies a job description any intern would envy: free meals, free lodging, and the power to roam every storeroom unchecked. Of course, nothing in Edo, Japan is simple window dressing. During the early 1600s, when Tokugawa Ieyasu's shogunate was still polishing its armor, rice wasn't just food. It was currency, tax base, and social lifeline. A single nibble by rodents meant lost revenue and, worse, a stain on lordly pride. Enter Nagoya's feline civil service. You marvel at the paperwork, yes, actual scrolls, documenting each appointment. Historians still argue whether the earliest listings date to 1615 or 1620, but the ink is unmistakable, names like Momota and Gontonosuke, followed by a cryptic seal shaped like a paw. As you follow the steward down a corridor, the castle becomes a fragrant maze. Cedar-slatted granaries on one side and lacquered kitchens on the other, each guarded by a cat whose ears rotate at the faintest scratch. You wonder aloud if these officers ever slack off. The steward chuckles. A lazy cat is reassigned to garden patrol. Too humiliating. They shape up fast. According to one quirky footnote you'll find in monk-scribe Jazane's diary, a particularly plump ginger was once demoted for napping inside a rice barrel. The scandal lasted 3 tea ceremonies. But tonight the core is awake. A splotched tortoiseshell darts across your path, muscles coiling like drawn bowstrings, then freezes, tail flicking. You hold your breath, feeling the thrill of peril that lives at the edge of candlelight. A whisk of grey, mouse, vanishes beneath the floorboards. No chase yet. The cat is studying traffic patterns, mapping potential exits. Hunting, it turns out, is more chess than pounce. While you wait, another official brushes against your calf, accepting exactly 3 strokes before filing it as morale maintenance. Her coat is brushed twice daily with rice bran ash, the steward explains, a fringe benefit that doubles as deterrent against fleas. And yes, there's a pension plan. Senior cats retire to the sun-drenched veranda, where apprentices bring them tidbits of sweet fish. You try not to look jealous. A draft creeps through shiji panels, carrying temple bells from the outer town. Time slows, lantern light pools like warm sake, and you begin to understand why travelers wrote of Nagoya Castle as the bastion where even the shadows purr. You're lulled by the soft pad-pad of patrol paws, the rustle of straw, the distant splash of koi. Then, scratch, skitter, slam. The tortoiseshell springs, floorboards rattle, and a triumphant yowl rebounds off stone. 1 rodent down, ledger updated. The steward bows. First catch of the night, auspicious. You grin, realizing you've witnessed medieval performance reviews in real time. Somewhere, a scribe is already dipping his brush, noting date, time, and prey weight. Fun fact, Edo accountants classified mice by tail length to calculate the cat's bonus ration. Strange? Perhaps. But in a society where gold coins traveled less than rice grains, risk management wore fur. A watcher in the rafters, third-year apprentice, by collar color, signals the all clear. The cats regroup, tails high. You're struck by their quiet solidarity, not pets, not livestock, but colleagues sprinkled through palace life like punctuation marks. When you finally take your leave, the moon is high, and behind you the feline bureau resumes its silent shift, guardians of grain and, inadvertently, guardians of dreams. Academic sidebar. Some scholars insist the Nagoya program was borrowed from earlier Buddhist temples that revered cats as protectors of sutras. Others insist castle bureaucrats cooked up the idea independently. The debate, like a restless tail, shows no sign of stopping. Beyond cuteness, the mouse hunting mandate. You wake before dawn, still within the castle compound, and realize your unofficial day pass includes a backstage tour of feline logistics. At the sound of the morning drum, you shadow a lean black and white Tom as he pads toward Warehouse 7, a rice storehouse the size of 3 basketball courts. The door slides open just enough for cat-sized entry. You squeeze behind, heartbeat syncing with the thrum of stored grain. First lesson: shift schedules. Contrary to popular myth, castle cats aren't spontaneous roamers. They are rostered. A bamboo tablet pegged outside lists patrol sectors in brushstrokes: West Loft, Sake Cellar, Silkworm Attic, next to paw-print signatures. Rotate nightly, management says, so no mouse learns the scent map. It's HR for whiskers, and you can't decide whether to laugh or take notes. Second lesson: scent masking. Inside Warehouse 7, the Tom rubs against cedar beams, leaving faint oily traces. You recognize the ritual. Medieval manuals call it kamiutsushi, spirit imprinting. By overlaying their own smell on the building's bones, cats restrict rodent highways, invisible toll gates no mouse dares cross. You kneel, inhaling a bouquet of pine, straw, and wet fur, an aroma that screams trespassers will be swallowed. A scratching ripple erupts from the rafters. The Tom's ears snap forward. Yours do too, metaphorically. A blur cascades, the first mouse reckon team. Instead of immediately pouncing, the Tom slinks along the wall, herding the mass toward a corner where 2 juniors wait, statuesque. The trap tightens, and with surgical economy the trio splits, strikes, and regroups. 5 mice gone like cough drops down a throat. You note a tiny academic footnote. Edozoologists believed cats used low-frequency growls inaudible to humans to coordinate, an idea modern acoustic research still debates. The warehouse supervisor, a human this time, logs the haul. Not all kills are equal. Pregnant female, high-value target. Old male missing a tail. Low points but still counts toward quota. You almost raise your hand to ask about ethics, but remember you're basically in 17th century OSHA training. Lunch arrives at the 10th drumbeat. 4 cats, grilled sardine halves stacked like silver dominoes on lacquer trays. 4 human staff, and you, lucky stowaway, a bowl of barley miso soup. The Tom claims his stipend first, courteous nod to rank. You spoon soup and wonder if corporate cafeterias 2 centuries later will ever match this vibe. Afternoon brings a change of venue, the Sake Cellar. Cool, sweet-smelling, risky. 2 nights ago a barrel leaked, attracting rodents hypnotized by koji ferment. When you descend, torches reveal a vineyard of wooden casks. The cat patrol splits, taking the high ground along ceiling beams. Below, you tiptoe past drips of clear sake, the scent like orchard ghosts. A mouse darts across your sandal and disappears between barrels. Reflex makes you squeak louder than the quarry. The Tom glances, unimpressed, and swoops. 1 leap, a squeal, and silence. You realize how integral cats are to the sensory landscape. Their soft steps offset clanking armor, their yowls punctuate monk chants, their musk lingers like incense. In Edo cosmology, 5 elements shape the world: earth, water, fire, wind, and void. But you suspect a secret 6th, cat. As dusk falls, the roster flips to night patrol. You've earned honorary observer status, permitted to curl beside the brazier and watch the debits and credits of rodent war turn into ledger lines. An apprentice copies numbers onto rice paper, tongue poking in concentration. Mainstream historical note: these ledgers later aided economists mapping pre-modern commodity flows, proof that humble cat stats can spark macro-analysis. Finally, the chief steward presents an embroidered badge to the day's top hunter, a gesture of pageantry rather than hierarchy, because all cats will share the extra fish collar tomorrow. The Tom decline ceremony, slinking to the windowsill where moonlight spills like milk. You follow, leaning on cool stone. Outside, the castle town hums with distant shamisen. The Tom surveys rooftops, emperor of shadows. For a breath you share his kingdom, and the boundary between species feels negotiable, communal, purring. Rodents versus Renaissance, Nagoya's defining battle. The next morning you leave the castle walls to explore the town that birthed this feline bureaucracy. Nagoya in the mid-Edo period is equal parts market bazaar and military engine, a chessboard of merchant stalls overshadowed by watchtowers. You navigate narrow streets, following the scent of soy broth and the tinny clang of smithy hammers until a storyteller outside the tea house invites you to sit. Over steaming censure he recounts the legend of the year of 10 million whiskers, a local term for 1707, when a rodent explosion forced Lord Tokugawa Mitsutomo to import cats by the cartload. You picture wagons packed like furry clouds, rolling past paddy fields while farmers cheered. Contemporary diaries describe the scene with, or in a hint of resignation. "We fought tooth with tooth," wrote one rice inspector, "for silver coins cannot plug holes in granaries." Modern epidemiologists suspect a climate swing increased harvest stores, creating perfect rodent buffet. Whatever the trigger, the mice came like living tidewater, chewing through silk cocoons, manuscripts, even lacquered altarpieces. The town's artisans wept, priests raged, merchants counted deficits. Cat deployment became municipal policy. Contracts between guilds and castle bureaucrats set quotas. Each merchant warehouse above a certain square footage must host at least 2 sterilized mouser units. Yes, you heard that right. Edo Japan practiced proto-veterinary control centuries before the term existed. A footnote you skim in a local chronicle reveals that herbalists concocted fish-based tonics to keep the feline workforce healthy during plague seasons. Is it scientific? Debatable. But the commitment was real. Walking further, you stumble upon an abandoned sake shop whose wooden signboard still bears tiny gnaw marks, historical graffiti. You run your finger across the grooves, feeling the ghost of famine. A grey tabby apprentice from the castle's outreach program patrols the alley, weaving between barrels like a furry metronome. Neighborhood children salute him with bits of dried bonito. You realize the yaku-neko model has spread beyond castle walls. The entire city hums with a pact. Cats guard grain, people guard cats, both guard prosperity. But not everyone applauded. Some Confucian scholars argued that elevating animals blurred cosmic hierarchies. Pamphlets circulated condemning furred privilege, claiming resources should aid the poor. An academic dispute flared in 1722 when philosopher Ogi Sarai allegedly criticized the policy during a moon-viewing banquet. Records say the argument ended politely. This is Japan, after all. But regional lords quietly surveyed cost-benefit graphs on rice yields and sided with whiskers. You pause at the city granary, a towering structure fortified with double walls and metal sheathing. A tour guide waves you in and points to scratch marks preserved under resin. They're part of an exhibition titled Enemies at the Gate, Nagoya versus Rattus norvegicus. You whisper that the brown rat wouldn't invade Japan until the late 18th century. The guide nods. These marks likely belong to its nimble cousin, the black rat. Either way, the scars read like war diaries. Inside, a mural depicts the cycle of menace and defense. Mice swarm rice bales, cats intercept, merchants bow ingratitude. It's propaganda, sure, but effective. A trivia plaque notes that during peak infestations, Nagoya's rats devoured an estimated 14,000 koku of rice annually, enough to feed 20,000 samurai for a year. Suddenly, the cat salaries back at the castle seem thrifty. Late afternoon sun gilds tiled roofs as you cross Nihon Maiki Street toward the riverbank. Boatmen unload crates of ceramics, and you notice each crate bears a stenciled cat silhouette, inspected by Feline Corps. A sailor tells you this stamp functions like a modern QR code, proof the shipment sat in a rodent-free zone for at least 3 nights. Export partners in Osaka and Edo pay premiums for cat-certified goods. Globalization. Edo style. As dusk thickens, you join a candlelit sermon at Keiganin Temple where monks praise the 5 virtues of the Mouser: vigilance, silence, grace, mercy, quick kills, and cleanliness. Children recite verses, waving little bell collars. Your chest warms. You're watching civic myth-making in real time. One monk admits with a grin that Virtue 5 remains aspirational. Some cats knock over water bowls just for sport. Back on the street, you taste chestnut cake and ponder how crisis molds culture. In Nagoya, rodent terror carved space for a new status symbol, the working cat. Cat charms hang at shop doorways. Ceramic yaku-neko figurines beckon customers. While the figurine's precise origin remains disputed among historians, many credit this rodent war as catalyst. You flip the tiny statue and see the base stamped year 8 of KWH, 1723. Could be real, could be tourist bait. Either way, the story purrs. Night settles, lanterns bloom. A final statistic floats through your head. City archives show that after full feline integration, rodent damage dropped by nearly 60% within a decade. You may not trust every figure. Record keeping then was more art than science. But your own eyes have watched the hunters work. So you sip the last of your tea, nod to the alley tabby still on duty, and walk back toward the castle, past walls that once trembled under tiny teeth but now echo with quiet purrs. Pornductory training, forging furred bureaucrats. You awaken to the muffled clang of a temple bell and find yourself in what looks like a feline boot camp disguised as a garden. Dew-soaked iris leaves form hurdle rows. Bamboo poles arch overhead like balance beams. Your guide, an elderly lady with the official title supervisor of whisker affairs, hands you a tiny wooden whistle. Blow once if you see slackers, she says, twice if you need bandages. You gulp, because a calico cadet is already stalking your ankles, testing your reaction time. Training starts at sunrise and ends the moment the last frog croaks goodnight. First module, sensory calibration. Kittens, tails erect like exclamation marks, are lined along a log. A scribe scatters rice husks mixed with mouse droppings, and instructors watch which noses twitch first. You lean closer and notice the log is split into 9 scented zones, from barley mold to dried kelp, forcing each cat to discriminate threats from distractions. Modern olfactory scientists still marvel at Edo trainers who, without microscopes, intuited that odor layering sharpens prey detection, an insight only confirmed by 21st century EEG studies. Module 2. Silence Craft. The trainees must cross a sand circle without disturbing concentric ripples inked in charcoal. You try it yourself and immediately leave a chaos of footprints. The cats, by contrast, float. The supervisor taps a scroll. Rule of 3. Shoulder blades low, tail curved, breath shallow. A footnote scribbled in the margin hints that ninja schools borrowed this very drill. Historians still debate who copied whom, but the overlap is unmistakable. Stealth is stealth, whiskers or none. Lunch is a strategic debrief disguised as picnic. Kittens gather under a cherry tree, each presented with 2 bowls, 1 fish, 1 plain millet. Only those who resisted premature pouncing receive fish. The lesson, you realize, is impulse control. A grey tabby hesitates one heartbeat too long, a black and white swipes a fish, and a tiny spat breaks out. The supervisor intervenes with a gentle clack of prayer beads, discipline wrapped in Buddhist serenity. Afternoon drills move indoors to the Hall of Echoes, a corridor lined with hollow tiles. Every misplaced paw sends a gong-like ring. Apprentices must traverse while balancing a paper lantern on their backs, flame unextinguished. You hold your breath as a ginger cat steps, pauses, steps, no sound except the faint hiss of oil lamp. Somewhere, a monk counts beats like a metronome. When the lantern reaches the end, novices exhale in synchronized relief, and you realize you have been doing the same. A brief recess lets cadets groom. Grooming, however, is graded. Coat gloss, whisker alignment, claw sheen, all recorded on bamboo slats kept in a sliding drawer labeled appearance metrics. Obsessive? Maybe, but Edo thinkers believed outward order reflects inner focus. You glance at your own rumpled sleeves and feel underdressed in front of cats. The next station swerves from discipline to creativity, obstacle improvisation. In a courtyard strewn with stacked crates and dangling fish lines, instructors shout random commands: up, under, freeze, while a temple drummer bangs irregular rhythms to mimic marketplace chaos. One wrong leap, and a brass bell tied to a beam rattles, logging a penalty. You note an obscure tidbit. The bell's pitch is tuned to G-sharp, supposedly the frequency mice find most alarming. Whether that's myth or protobioacoustics, nobody can prove, but the story dazzles. Evening slides in with violet dusk, and graduation trials commence. A sealed pantry releases 5 live rodents of varying sizes into a moonlit courtyard. Trainees may hunt solo or form squads. Tactics are their final exam. You perch on the veranda railing, watching a mottled brown kitten coordinate a pincer movement worthy of Sengo generals. Within minutes, 3 mice are secured, 2 scamper into a decoy barrel, and that's deliberate, because decoy barrels teach cadets to accept partial success over reckless pursuit. Perfection breeds overconfidence, the supervisor murmurs. Finally, certificates are awarded, not scrolls, but ribboned collars dyed with natural indigo. Each bears a single stamped kanji, "Heo," meaning cultivated. You run your fingers over the textured fabric. It smells of ink, fur, and quiet pride. The youngest graduate, still wobbling from fatigue, rubs against your shin. You scratch behind her ear and feel a tiny rumble of purr, proof that exhaustion and elation can coexist. Walking back toward the castle, you catch the supervisor sealing parchment records. She explains future placements depend on today's performance metrics cross-referenced with lineage scrolls. Elite mousers trace ancestry to mythical temple guardians. Others descend from common alley stock, yet all share equal opportunity, an Edo period meritocracy in miniature. Your last glimpse is of kittens sleeping in a heap, ribbons gleaming like fireflies. You tuck the wooden whistle into your sleeve as a souvenir and promise silently never to blow it. After all, who wants to summon a brigade of overqualified hunters while dreaming? Perks of office, fish, naps, and perks packages. Your third dawn in Nagoya begins not with drums but with a chorus of polite meows drifting from the payroll pavilion, a cedar annex tucked behind the accountant's hall. Inside, ledgers sprawl across low tables like sleeping origami cranes. At one end, the chief purser bows to a tricolor queen perched on an embroidered cushion. "Salary disbursement," she intones, sliding forward a porcelain saucer piled with shaved bonito. You realize you're about to witness payday, Edo style. Compensation here hinges on the 4 pillars of feline welfare: nutrition, shelter, recreation, and honorifics. Pillar 1, nutrition, translates into tiered meal plans. Apprentice mousers receive boiled millet laced with sardine oil. Senior hunters graduate to seared sea bream, skin crisped over charcoal. Legends whisper of a once-in-a-lifetime bonus, a bite of fatty tuna reserved for cats who catch a rat the size of a tea kettle. The record holder is a calico named Iron Jaws, whose portrait still hangs above the pantry door, her whiskers lacquered in gold. Shelter, Pillar 2, goes beyond dry straw. The castle maintains what could only be called a feline condominium, cedar cubbies lined with silk scraps donated by kimono tailors. During typhoon season, shutters close automatically via rope and pulley, a mechanism originally designed for archers but repurposed to keep Whiskers warm. You peer inside a cubby and spot a miniature wind chime, Perks Matter. Pillar 3, Recreation. Twice a week, courtiers unroll a garden of cat-approved enrichment. Feather wands wave like banners. Pine cones tied to hemp strings roll across gravel in unpredictable arcs. You chuckle at a footnote in the event schedule. Do not antagonize the Persian delegate, his temper is unpredictable. Turns out the shogun once received a Persian longhair as diplomatic gift, and has been on long-term secondment to Nagoya's feline corps. Every organization has that one VIP with special inbox rules. The final pillar, honorifics, feels abstract until you see it. Each cat has a lacquer tag inscribed with a rank: clerk, sergeant, inspector. Promotions happen quarterly, announced by the beating of a small taiko drum. Today you watch a grey mouser receive an upgrade from clerk to sergeant for brave conduct in the sake cellar. A monk rubs her chin, whispers a sutra, and inflates the new collar's tassel with incense smoke, a ceremonial flourish that almost outweighs the extra fish ration. You might wonder, do cats care about titles? Apparently yes. Researchers in animal cognition posited that consistent auditory cues, drum rhythms for promotions, condition positive association, reinforcing future performance. It's Pavlov, but with gongs instead of bells and sea bream instead of biscuits. A highlight of payroll day is the walk of gratitude. Cats file past junior clerks who bow and offer single chrysanthemum petals. The ritual, copied from samurai stipend ceremonies, symbolically repays the hunters for protecting livelihoods. You hand a petal to an orange tabby. She accepts, then promptly shreds it. After all, gratitude tastes better than it smells. Mid-morning brings audits. Inspectors verify that meal portions match kill logs. Any discrepancies lead to immediate investigation. You glance at a parchment showing formulas: base ration times mouse count times vermin severity coefficient. Today's coefficient is 1.2 because spring floods drove extra rodents into storage rooms. You suspect some modern project managers would kill, figuratively, for metrics this clear. Lunch break features a decadent surprise: leftover eel from last night's daimyo banquet. Eel is high-value currency, distributing its signals gratitude from the top. Cats cluster like living commas around the platters, tails writing satisfied apostrophes in the air. You sample a bite yourself and nearly purr. After lunch, benefits continue in subtler forms: veterinary checkups, claw-sharpening stones imported from Kyoto, and an annual hot stone massage performed by apprentice monks. You witness one cat melt into a puddle of fur atop a warmed river rock. The masseur recites a Zen koan: what is the mouse's face before the cat? You laugh, then notice the cat's breathing slow into trance pacing. Maybe enlightenment is a heated stone and someone else paying the bill. As sunset gilds the payroll pavilion, you ask the chief purser about retirement. She leads you to the gentle garden, a walled courtyard where retired hunters lounge on sun-bleached porches. Potted mint deters fleas, while a koi pond gurgles in perpetual invitation. Twice a month, local children read haiku to the elders. One poem you hear tonight begins: soft paws, silent night rice safe beneath moonlit beams, dreams purr in the grain. You blink away a tear, maybe it's dusk, maybe it's dust. Before you leave, a final ledger appears: legacy account. A fraction of each catch is tallied toward future cat aid, fish for orphan kittens, herbs for sick retirees. It's a 17th century social security net woven with whiskers. You sign as honorary witness, using an inked paw stamp pressed onto your palm like a reverse handshake. Outside, fireflies spark in the moat. Somewhere in the accountant's hall, abacuses click like quiet rain. You realize salary, when measured in comfort and community, buys something coin rarely can, loyalty strong enough to outlast centuries. And as you walk away, a faint meow follows, half thank you, half reminder that payday never sleeps. Whiskered colleagues, the human-feline synchronicity. Night rain taps the castle roof like a polite guest, and you find yourself assigned to the Office of Interspecies Relations, a modest chamber where quills, abacuses, and whiskers intermingle. The clerk on duty, a bespectacled samurai with ink-stained fingers, explains that cat-human teamwork isn't a byproduct, it's policy. A single paw may swat a mouse, he says, but 4 paws plus 2 hands draft economic reform. You suspect the quote is rehearsed, yet the synergy feels real. Your first stop, the scribe alcove. Here, young scholars copy land inventories while calico assistants patrol the desk edges. One student drops a brush, a tabby returns it, gripping the bamboo shaft like a courier. In return, the student scratches behind her ear, a micro-bonus in the corporate feedback loop. You notice a parchment titled Interspecies Workflow Charter, Year 1725, outlining best practices. Maintain clear desk corners, schedule play breaks, and never use fish-scented ink unless you welcome editorial interference. Next, you shadow a supply cart trundling toward the Textile Guild district. 2 cats ride shotgun, eyes scanning gutters for rodent ambushes. The cart driver, a middle-aged woman with arms like braided rope, whistles a folk tune whose notes cue the cats to switch sides. This anti-cross strategy prevents mice from timing escape routes. You realize you're witnessing just-in-time logistics, Edo edition. Midday brings a visit to the mint hall, where coins are cast in clay molds. Mice crave the soy paste used to seal mold halves, so cats stand sentinel atop shelves, tails dangling like tassels of authority. A Siamese officer named Azure stares at molten copper as if contemplating astronomy. The mint master tells you Azure once alerted workers to a mold crack by batting a loose shard into the foreman's lap. That split-second warning saved an entire batch. The incident is now immortalized in workplace safety scrolls as the paw that guarded the RY. Historical sidebar, mainstream this time. In 1733, Nagoya's mint output reportedly surpassed Edo's for a short window, and some economists attribute the surge to reduced material loss from rodent contamination. Whether causation or correlation, the feline factor appears in footnotes. After lunch you join a meeting, yes, a meeting, with the Grain Exchange Council. A round table holds rice samples. A ginger mouser named Maple inspects each burlap pouch. If she ignores a sample, buyers haggle the price down, suspecting hidden nibble holes. Maple's reputation is so respected that merchants call her the silent auditor. You watch her reject a batch with one sniff. Merchants sigh and redo their math. In the afternoon drizzle, the clerk escorts you to the city outskirts where farmers test new scarecrow designs. Cats critique from fence posts, signaling with tail twitches. Left flick means birds unconvinced, right flick means effective. The farmers jot notes. You half-jokingly label this agile development. Your tour ends at the Harmony Hall, a tea room where humans and cats debrief over steamed buns and saucers of goat milk. An elderly monk initiates a call and response chant. Who guards the granary? Humans answer, we do, with walls. Cats respond with a communal purr, roughly translating to we do, with claws. The ritual feels corny until you notice how shoulders relax on both sides, tension dissolved in rhythmic unity. As twilight paints the courtyard, the clerk confides that cooperation isn't always seamless. Kittens sometimes spill ink on tax ledgers. Clerks occasionally step on tails during fire drills. A grievance board hangs near the exit, listing minor infractions. Please refrain from chasing parchment corners during audits. Each grievance is annotated with a paw print or human stamp, followed by a resolution comment. You skim one entry, incident, cat slept on abacus, skewing profit calculations. Resolution, move abacus when not in use, provide warm cushion elsewhere. You smile. Conflict management has never sounded so fluffy. Before parting, you're given an honorary charter scroll, granting permission to collaborate with any and all whiskered officials, provided snacks are offered in good faith. You seal it with wax and a borrowed paw impression. Outside, the rain has stopped, and castle lanterns flicker like fireflies caught in glass jars. A black and white sergeant escorts you to the gate, brushing your calf in silent farewell. You pause, thinking about how the castle's heartbeat depends on a duet, human precision, feline intuition. The system's elegance lies not in forcing sameness, but in choreographing difference. Today's corporate buzzword would be synergy, but here it's just daily life. Ink meets claw, grain meets fang, ledger meets purr. A final statistic drifts through memory. After formalizing cat-human cooperation protocols, Nagoya reported a 15% increase in storage efficiency over 5 years, according to shogunate reports archived in Edo. Numbers aside, you felt the difference in the humid air, tasted it in rodent-free rice, heard it in the cadence of shared footsteps. As you step into the night, Maple the silent auditor appears on the wall, nods once, and disappears into shadows. It's hard to tell if she's approving your departure or reminding you to file your own collaboration report, preferably with a fish-based signature bonus. The silent duel, Edo-era tales of takedowns. Rain has rinsed the night air to crystal, and you stand on the eaves of Warehouse 3, a borrowed lantern at your feet, watching shadows weave under the moon. Below, a single beam of torchlight slices the courtyard, revealing an arena neither human nor feline designed, but both species know by instinct. Tonight's matchup is already legendary in Baccali gossip. Crimson Ear, a scar-striped senior mouser, versus Ghosttail, a mouse reputed to have dodged 12 capture attempts and stolen 3 ink sticks from the scribe's pantry. Bookmakers outside the castle whisper odds. You simply grip the rail and feel history stretch like a bowstring. Crimson Ear exits first, stepping from the granary door as if escorted by trumpets only cats can hear. His ears swivel, charting wind, his whiskers quiver like tuning forks. Somewhere in the rafters, apprentices hold their breath. You study his posture, the low belly hover, the paused inhale, classic marari, the Japanese martial art term for optimal distance. Historians still debate whether warrior monks learned it from observing cats or vice versa, but tonight the concept purrs in muscle memory. Ghosttail appears next, a sliver of grey darting from a barrel crack. She pauses under the torch's halo, nose twitching in semaphore, left nostril tests rice dust, right gauges predator pheromones. You marvel that prey can look so poised. Academic side note, modern ethologists cite urban mouse populations for developing microstillness, a freeze lasting 0.6 seconds, just long enough to dodge common feline pounce trajectories. Watching Ghosttail, you wonder if Edo mice pioneered the technique centuries earlier. The opening gambit is silence. Crimson Ear drops into a crouch so low his fur kisses dirt. Ghosttail circles clockwise, measuring floorboard gaps like stepping stone math. You lean forward, pulse sinking to theirs, and realize the duel is part ritual, part calculus. Each footfall writes an equation in dust. Suddenly, movement, a blur that feels slow to your heightened senses. Crimson Ear feints left, compressing hind legs like springs. Ghosttail launches toward a stacked sake barrel, nails scritching wood, tail a living metronome. The cat redirects mid-air, an S-curve impossible for bones to survive, yet they do. He lands on the barrel rim. She ricochets off a crate, vanishes behind hemp sacks. Cue the second act. Patience. Crimson Ear settles into a sphinx atop the barrel, eyes half-lidded, breathing even. You're reminded of Zen archers who release arrows on exhale, trusting void to aim. Minutes dilate. Rainwater taps roof tiles like a SH player tuning reeds. Somewhere, a frog chirps. You almost forget the mouse. But she hasn't forgotten you. Ghosttail re-emerges along a ceiling beam, uses a frayed rope as a makeshift bridge, and positions herself directly above the cat's blind spot. Then, in what feels like slow motion, she gnaws the rope, each bite a ticking fuse. The fibers snap, thwick, and a knotted weight plummets toward Crimson Ear's head. The cat reacts a whisker before impact, vaulting sideways as the weight smacks the barrel lid. Rice wine sloshes, lids clatter. Apprentices gasp. You catch the supervisor scribbling notes. This will be tomorrow's training scenario titled Enemy Uses Terrain. Crimson Ear's tail lashes, a banner of irritation. Before he vaults upward, claws finding purchase in the very rope that betrayed him. He snakes along it inverted, paws over paws, until his nose-to-nose with Ghosttail on the beam. Breath suspends. The mouse darts left, the cat mirrors, the mouse doubles back, the beam creaks. Final act, the moment all narratives converge. Ghosttail leaps for a lantern hook, misjudges distance by a whisker, and slips. Crimson Ear lunges, catching her mid-air between forepaws. But instead of crushing, he adjusts grip, allowing a fraction of slack that cushions fall impact. Call it martial courtesy. They hit the dirt in a puff of dust. The courtyard echoes with one squeak, then quiet. The supervisor signals match over. Crimson Ear stands, Ghosttail limp but intact. Tradition dictates swift dispatch, yet tonight there's an audience. The cat gently sets the mouse down and offers a single meow, question mark or benediction. The mouse scrambles away, bruised pride but living body. You blink, mercy as strategy, who knew? Later, the cat receives commendation for innovation under pressure, while trainees file by the fallen rope to study its frayed ends. A monk murmurs that victory without annihilation strengthens systems more than total destruction. Remove an enemy, create vacancy, humble an enemy, teach others caution. You exhale, realizing your jaw aches from clenching. The lantern gutters. Dawn trembles at horizon. Crimson Ear exits, tail held high, hero and philosopher. Ghosttail's silhouette flickers once at the wall's edge, then subsides into pipes and legend. The night reinvents itself as story. Cold case epilogue. Castle archives list a later sighting of Ghosttail near the Mint Hall. Some clerks swear she became a folk talisman. If a mouse outwits cats, profitability follows. Scholars raise eyebrows, but the ledgers do show an uptick in copper output that quarter. Correlation? Ongoing debate. 2 days later, Koji is found trapped in a drainage pipe, dehydrated but alive, thanks to a child who heard faint mews near the moat. The incident spawns protocol revisions, narrower grates on pipes, glowing paw prints for night visibility, and mandatory buddy patrols. Mainstream historians later cite Koji's rescue as catalyst for Edo's first documented safety committee, predating modern OSHA by centuries. But challenges evolve. Word arrives that a traveling merchant has introduced spring-trigger mousetraps imported from Holland. Curiosity buzzes like summer cicadas. Some castle officials argue the devices could render feline services redundant. Others counter that traps require cheese, an expensive luxury. A town hall debate ensues in the Harmony Hall. You sit in the back, watching cats watch humans argue. A scholar presents test data. Traps catch 72% of solitary mice, but only 30% of coordinated groups. Lapis pads to the dais and, with a single claw, springs the demonstration trap safely. Point made. The council votes to adopt traps as auxiliary tools, not replacements. Strategic takeaway. Technology complements intuition. It doesn't erase it. The final obstacle arrives not on 4 legs but in parchment form. A shogunate edict to reduce grain storage taxes, meaning less surplus, fewer mice, and thus possible downsizing of the feline core. Anxiety sparks like static. Cats sense it, tails stiff. You attend the committee drafting appeal letters. The argument: Even with lower inventory, the symbolic security provided by cats deters theft and maintains public confidence. The edict pauses for review. Weeks pass. Decision day arrives. Result: duty stay, albeit with reduced meal rations offset by public donations. Citizens deliver fish scraps, call it thank you tax. Against adversity, community knits tighter. You witness townsfolk tie ribbons around alley cats, designating them honorary guardians. Crisis, again, births culture. That evening, Koji, now fully recovered, receives a tiny silver bell for bravery. Water still drips from eaves, but the air feels lighter, charged with a lesson. Obstacles aren't interruptions, they are the syllabus. Cats nap on rafters, Shibas patrol perimeters, humans draft contingency charts, and somewhere in a flood-scarred tunnel, the last ladder mouse recalculates fate. Academic whisper. Some scholars argue the 1738 flood mouse incident accelerated cross-species protocols, indirectly influencing later Meiji-era public health codes. Others dismiss the link as romanticized hindsight. The footnote war continues. Feline footprints through time, Nagoya's soulscape. Sun-baked roof tiles scent the air with clay as you wander beyond castle walls into Nagoya's merchant quarters. What strikes you first is how omnipresent feline imagery has become. Shop banners stitched with paw prints, tea-house curtains patterned in stylized whiskers, even the barber's pole shaped like a twirling calico tail. You realize the city hasn't merely hired cats, it has woven them into civic identity. Your morning begins at the Cat Lantern Festival, held every midsummer to honor the night patrol. Artisans carve paper lanterns into feline silhouettes, arched backs, curved tails, lazy yawns, and children paint them with regional proverbs. One reads, "A mouse paying rent spoils the landlord." You chuckle, then help a girl attach a tiny bell clapper inside, so each sway pings like a purr. Sociologists might call this ritual early brand marketing. You just call it adorable. Midday draws you to Daruma Alley, where ceramicists fire fresh batches of yaku-neko figurines. The kill master lifts a pour-up cat glowing red-orange and explains glaze recipes. Rice husk ash for matte finish, crushed oyster shell for pearl sheen. Academic disclaimer: historians dispute the origin of the beckoning cat. Some cite Edo's Gotoku-ji temple in 1620, others Nagoya-in's luring Silk Road traders. The debate endures, yet sales receipts here speak volumes. A side street hosts the Performers Guild, a troupe of storytellers who reenact famous hunts with puppets. You sit amid straw mats while a narrator in fox mask voices Ghost Tale's daring rope trick from Chapter 7, adding comedic commentary, "Never trust a cat who skips leg day." The crowd roars. You feel the past metabolizing into folklore. Hungry, you follow cinnamon smells to a bakery selling samurai ear pastries, shaped like cat ears, filled with miso caramel. The baker, flour on nose, says sales triple whenever the Feline Core publishes annual crime stats showing lowered rodent incidents. Marketing synergy, Edo edition. In the afternoon sun, you stroll the river promenade. Fishermen display tuna slices on ice, each skewer adorned with wooden tokens, still paw-shaped, but bearing certification numbers. A dockhand explains the whisker seal, a program whereby port cats inspect fish crates for stowaway rats before shipments sail to Osaka. The seal guarantees freshness and, according to anecdotal data, commands a 7% price premium. Economics professors centuries later will model this as early supply chain trust signaling. Further along, you encounter a shrine dedicated to Nikko Bosatsu, the bodhisattva of soft steps, an entirely local invention but no less revered. Devotees tie tiny collars to a prayer rack, each tag inscribed with wishes. "May our storehouse stay full, may our cat return home, may my exam scores soar like a leaping mouser." A monk offers you a blessed collar. You loop it around your wrist and feel a surge of communal warmth. Even the local dialect has mutated. Street vendors shout Naya Kore instead of Iris High Mace to attract customers. A scholar confides that linguists catalogued 43 new proverbs involving cats over the past decade, including better a silent cat than a loud promise. Language, it seems, purrs. As dusk washes the sky in persimmon hues, you visit the Feline Museum, a modest two-story townhouse curated by retired clerk Tanaka. The first floor displays historical ledgers, collars, and a bronze statue of iron jaws. Upstairs, however, surprises you, a room dedicated to failures and folly. Exhibits include a shattered vase labeled Collateral Damage, 1719, and a painting of a cat tangled in abacus beads. Tanaka explains that honoring missteps preserves humility. A perfect predator culture breeds hubris, and hubris invites disaster, a lesson from the flood you witnessed. Nightfall unveils the pièce de résistance, the moonlight parade. Citizens line streets holding lanterns while cats, some official, some neighborhood strays, march wearing silk sashes. Drummers keep a heartbeat rhythm. Spectators toss dried sardine confetti. You spot Ghosttail's silhouette embroidered on a banner titled "Wit Brightens Vigilance." Crimson Ear's likeness appears on a drumhead, mid-pounce. The pageant feels simultaneously theatrical and genuine, a city telling its own bedtime story. But culture isn't static. Rumors ripple through the crowd. A foreign merchant is importing ferrets as alternative pest control. A local healer trials peppermint oil repellent. You catch snippets of debate. Do innovations enrich cat lore or threaten it? A young poet shrugs, saying, "Legends adapt, cats land on their feet." You suspect resilience is tattooed on the city's very bricks. After the parade, you sit at a riverside stall sipping cold barley tea. Fireflies mingle with floating lanterns, merging light and reflection. A fisherman sets out a saucer of leftover tuna for a stray kitten. Nearby children clap when the kitten mews approval. You realize cat culture here isn't top-down mythology. It's daily microacts, sharing food, weaving stories, adjusting language. It's infrastructure of kindness, built one paw-print at a time. On your walk back to the castle, alley walls glow with fresh chalk sketches. Cats wearing scholar hats, cats holding abacuses, cats lounging on rice bales. You add a doodle, a cat and mouse sharing tea. Someone behind you chuckles and adds a speech bubble, truce until dawn. You step aside, letting folklore propagate like ivy. A final statistic hovers. City archives record a 4% rise in literacy rates after puppet troupes began traveling with cat-themed moral fables. Kids learn to read scripts to retell them. Education via whisker. Who would have guessed? As you cross the stone bridge, the castle lanterns wink. Somewhere, Crimson Ear is on patrol. Ghosttail plots her next grand theft, and temple bells fold the day into night. You smile, realizing you've become part of the cat tapestry, an interloper woven into stripes and purrs. Scholarly note: cultural anthropologists label Nagoya 18th century cat reverence as a zoomorphic civic identity. Critics argue it borders on fetishization, yet walking these streets, you sense balance, work and worship, claw and silk. Debate purrs on. You disembark near the tech park, a sprawl of glass towers reflecting clouds like koi. Here, cat icons glow on security terminals. Swipe cards show feline silhouettes. Office rumor says developers trust a system more if a cat icon blinks green. Maybe superstition, maybe UX genius. In a courtyard, you watch a robot dog patrol alongside a flesh and fur tabby, sensors and whiskers forming a yin-yang of vigilance. Every Friday, a cat leads the office stretch break, so the HR pamphlet claims. As evening folds in, you attend a symposium titled Pursuit Algorithms, From Whisker to Code. Speakers compare L-shaped pounce paths to predictive AI curves. One slide shows Ghosttail's rope trick superimposed on a logistics network diagram, illustrating supply chain resilience. An academic quips, "We're all chasing mice, only the definitions differ." Laughter ripples, equal parts nerdy and nostalgic. But not all dialogue is triumphant. A conservationist argues that urban cats threaten songbird populations, urging leash laws. A historian counters that cats curtail disease vectors long before antibiotics. The moderator, stroking a plush toy for neutrality, asks if the future requires synthetic deterrents that mimic feline pheromones without actual predators. The room divides. Progress always forks like tails. Walking back toward the river, you notice barcode graffiti on brick walls. Scan 1, and a folk poem appears. Steel traps rust, but whiskers remember. Street art as footnote. You cross Nihon Maiki, now lined with lead lanterns shaped like translucent katsum, half cat, half cone, guiding cyclists. A cyclist swerves to avoid a real cat sauntering across the bike lane, proving analog still trumps digital in the right whiskers. Night settles, but you detour to Kaganin Temple. Inside, monks chant an updated sutra, inserting lines that bless all guardians, furred or coded. Beside the altar stands a sleek cylinder, an automated pest sensor. It glows blue when insects spike, red for rodents. Tonight it glows white, peace. A temple cat curls beneath, unthreatened, as if acknowledging a junior colleague. Leaving the temple, you find a riverboat converted into a floating library. Tucked among scrolls is a children's book titled The Mouse Who Took the Tour. Flipping pages, you meet a cartoon ghost tale guiding kids through safety tips. Wash hands, store grain high, befriend a cat. Education, legacy's seed. Back at castle grounds, moonlight shines on the gentle garden. Retired cats lounge, their paws stiff with age, but their eyes still tracking shadows. Beside them, a digital plaque cycles thank you messages from donors worldwide. Your work inspires our robotics club in Helsinki. Legacy has gone global, turning purrs into protocols. You kneel, placing a chrysanthemum petal on the veranda. A geriatric ginger lifts her head, accepts the offering, and purrs so softly it feels like the earth's heartbeat. You whisper that the world still needs guardians, even if the shapes of threats change. Her eyes, cloudy yet wise, narrow in agreement. As you rise, castle bells mark midnight, electronic gongs now, but tuned to the same resonant key. You walk away under sky smeared with starlight and street lamp glow, feeling history breathe against your spine like warm fur. Cats may no longer be frontline soldiers, but their stories patrol imagination, and imagination is the first wall in any fortress. Research coder, sociologists tracking urban safety indices note a subtle cat halo effect. Districts with visible feline programs report higher community trust, independent of pest data. Whether psychological or paw-print practical, the phenomenon keeps statisticians busy. Debate, like a contented tale, goes on.